All right, so today the group question is, how can we negotiate a space between ourselves and other selves in which the truth of the situation can be balanced with any unspoken expectations? We are those of Laitos, and we greet you all heartily in the love and light of the one infinite Creator. Salutations, my friends, in this magnificent creation of which we are but a small part, a tiny but irreplaceable reflection of that core vibration resonating in all hearts. This tone redounds to the ends of the universe and connects up with those placid, peaceful waves that lap on the shore of truth, comfort, enlightenment, belongingness, all dimensions of unity, my friends. It is our pleasure to join you in this circle, and we are very touched and pleased to reconnect with our old friend, whom we have walked hand in hand with on a journey stretching back many years. You see, my friends, we are typically endowed with a very deep responsibility in this confederation of which our planet is a member. Our task is normally to prime the pump, shall we say, for those brothers and sisters in the Confederation who seek channels as outlets for their truth, which they wish to share. And we normally make the way for them by working with those of your kind on the disciplines of personality necessary to achieve a minimum of contact that can then be worked with, a small spark that can catch and be carefully blown upon until a flame comes out of the inert conditions of life. This flame is not one that we can kindle alone. This is a process, a phenomenon, which we require your cooperation with. And therefore, especially in light of the topic this afternoon, we must make our expectations crystal clear. And acknowledge the expectations that you fine folks bring to this circle. And we do this in our own subtle way by blessing each of you individually and inducting you one by one into this seeking unit. There is a precondition to this system functioning correctly for the purposes of this seeking. And it is one that we trust all of you are familiar with. It must be of your free will. Not just at the beginning, but in the middle, in the end, and in the aftermath. Your personal touch on the crystal of consciousness is not able to be routed around, you see. We must have your permission to share this perspective we seek to elucidate. Therefore, please weigh carefully our words. We are not so advanced, my brothers and sisters, that we can simply instruct and expect each and every syllable to land upon your mind as a feather upon a pillow. We know very well that in third density, true communication is a skill that is still being developed. You do so much to bring your open hearts into this communion with us and each other. However, there are distortions, blind spots, where it is easy for the chord to go from major to minor. And then it is so simple to allow the creeping sense of uneasiness of, am I doing it right? Am I on the correct path? All of these concerns to cloud that precious clarity one goes to great lengths to achieve. You would do yourselves and us the greatest honor, my friends, by keeping this clarity even at the expense of our information. For we cannot teach you what you desire. And you cannot learn that from us anyway. You must be strict in a way with your own guidance within and discard utterly any ideas, any words, any breezes from our direction that chill, that arrest you, that cause you a moment of concern even. For this contact, as precious and important as it is to us and to this instrument, cannot override the project of your life. So take heed to always feel free to reject what we have to say. This does us a great service, my brothers and sisters. For then we do not have to worry that we will deliver a package that you cannot carry. For we would not weight you down. We would open the door above and always offer the opportunity to fly to you. And you will learn it. And you will learn it through diligent, patient practice on your own, but also by reaching a hand out to each other as we reach out our hand to correct this instrument, as we reach out our hands to yours. And in this way, the chain of being is lengthened and can stretch back to that single goal we all share: reunification with the Creator. And we suspect it will complete the chain, not as an act of exertion, so much as a new perspective on a truth that has always been available. Thank you for exercising your discretion with our words. Now, on to the main program. You have posed to our kind a question that is carefully considered on our end. Carefully considered for a very good reason. We, in our complex of Laitos, may see into the hearts of each of you, may see into the hearts of each other within our planetary complex. And this is the beginning of true communication, that blue ray energy vibration, that frequency that begins to bring out of inert creation the co-creator latent within it. And the angels sing and the trumpets sound. However, you are in third density. You stand very close to the cusp of our density. And yet, there is still a space to be closed between you and that shining emerald world just beyond your grasp. And it is the case with third density that the gaze into the truth in another's heart is not easily obtained. Now, why is this? In this density of third, you are attempting to test yourself. You see, you have an important task at hand. And if you were to see the entire lay of the land, so to speak, it would diminish your concentration upon the studies for this test. The test is designed to focus you. It is designed so that you may learn how to focus yourselves in a very particular way. It is not a perfect test, and it is not without consequences that lead to a perfect outcome immediately, any more than your current education leaves all stones unturned. No. Some excel at some subjects better than others. But the ability to learn, that must be honed, or the education is for naught. Let us extend this metaphor to polarity. It is extremely important that you learn how to channel the Creator's energy with a certain sincerity, with a certain vibratory frequency. Because in fourth density, fifth density, and onwards, the illusion is much more difficult to evolve within. You will not have the props of a solid, stable density of condensed matter such as you enjoy now. You will have access much more readily to the time-space illusion. And in this illusion, you will enjoy a fluidity that will give you great freedom. So much freedom, in fact, that it will be difficult to always achieve the level of focus necessary to continue your studies, to extend your evolution into the unknown and the uncomfortable. So now you learn a very, very important skill. And it is to love without exception or stint. In one of two ways, my brothers and sisters. In the first way, you learn what the individual, we correct this instrument, you learn what individuation is for. It is a conduit for the expression of the Creator's energies out into the creation, so that new processes and new creations may obtain. This must be done in a generous and loving spirit in order for the efficiency to reach the peak of what is possible. And we call this polarity service to others. A very curious name, for it is impossible, in a way, not to serve others. So let us explain this in more depth by showing you its opposite, the other side of the pole. On this other side is great intensity indeed. In some ways, even more intensity in the manner that you recognize it. And it has to do with a congruent intensity of energy channeling that is not primarily extended out of the self, but instead draws within the self and pulls creation into it. It is a way of understanding the Creator, for the Creator has this selfish, domineering aspect as well as the radiant, generous aspect. But the Creator has it in balance. And you, in third density, are in a way learning how to maintain a balance with the exception of this one pole of energy valence. Service to self is what we of the Confederation call this other inward ingressing flow of energy, in which energy is mastered and controlled and then used as a way to exercise manipulation over the creation. In a functioning creation, both poles are necessary as a heartbeat in and out. But you must choose which direction your blood will pump at this level. And learn the opposite once you have had this asymmetry push you through the lessons of fourth and fifth density into the sixth, where, as our brothers and sisters of Ra have explained, these paradoxes are resolved. Not because they change, but because you have that more holistic perspective that the act of polarization has given the motive power to aspire to. All is well in the end. But we speak of this closing of distance between your density and the next, such that you can see a self moving in that direction and continuing with the project of expressing and glorifying our one infinite Creator. And so it is our specialty in the Confederation to work with mind, body, spirit complexes such as you. And so we take a special moment to explain the rules of the game, so to speak. This is the background for a situation in which communication does not lead to a full and open view of two hearts, but instead has a kind of muddy ascertainment of the situation. Now, you have described a way of working with this unclear situation with a kind of contractual term. negotiation. And this implies a give and take that we would ask for you to consider. In a negotiation, it is presumed as a matter of course that both parties are able and willing to reach some sort of compromise, is it not? If this were not assumed, there could be no basis for bargaining. We would highlight this common respect that presumes we correct this instrument. This common respect that prefigures the possibility for a resolution as primarily an act of faith when it comes to matters of the spirit, concerns of the heart. For these are not facts that the consensus third density reality will convey easily and clearly to you, my brothers and sisters. You must find these facts within first. It is our presumption that the easy camaraderie you have achieved in this group is predicated on this. And so you find that you may share from the heart with a kind of freedom that does not easily obtain in other areas of your life. And it is the great value of your circle that you have been able to do this. And we commend you for this work. For practice makes perfect, to put it bluntly and tersely. You practice so that you can go into the more indeterminate situation and project your light, radiate your love in spite of the lack of mutuality that you have here. And this is where your question finds its resonance. How, as a seeker attempting to serve your other selves, may you open your heart in spite of the closed heart of the other, especially when there are conditions on the love this heart expresses. This is why we want to call out the basic ground rules of third density so clearly. For in fourth density, it is much easier. The heart cannot be closed in this way. And the mind armored against intrusion. The thoughts of all are open and Consequently, you may partake of the veracity of a situation as an objective item of interest. It does not require faith, you see, to know that the other is yourself. You have it mirrored to you constantly. And you are able to do great work as a planetary complex as a result. But, my friends, in third density, you do not have this easy vision of the situation. And therefore, the negotiation, the compromise, the bargaining over the table between two parties. Now, you may anticipate some of our suggestion to you, and that is to do as our brothers and sisters of the complex of Ra suggest, to lay your cards face up and to say, I love you. And the chips will fall where they may, and I still will love. And it may redound to my demise, and still I will love unto the ends of the earth. And this is a beautiful, beautiful thought. And if you have this thought in your heart and mind, cherish it, nurture it. Keep it very protected in a way. Because deploying this strategy that we just described is a tricky business in third density. And the skill that you are learning is how to do it. Not that you should do it, for you all feel it in your body that it is the way it should be. And this is your compass needle pointing the way home. So, what to do when the other blocks your offer of love? For this will happen. Indeed, you will block offers of love. You do it without a second thought. For you must exist in a world that presents many threats. There are red ray threats to survival and flourishing in a material sense, to one's ability to procreate and have companionship, something that all deserve. There are orange ray issues that have to do with who I am, who you are, and how these two vibrations can harmonize or create a dissonant vibration that can rupture the outward appearance of unity. There are yellow ray dangers that have to do with the incredibly complex energy systems that lie underneath your social systems, your customs, your expectations that extend beyond the individual to individual mode of love. These all are steps on the path to that great springboard of evolution, the green ray center, where the waters flow forth with no stint, where you may gush forth your truth and discover that your power lies in your love. But you discover that by working very carefully with these lower rays. And it is in those lower rays that the negotiation must occur that you speak of. The first step to heal a relationship such that a profitable negotiation may occur lies in these lower resonances within yourself. We say lower not because they are less than. They are the great foundations of manifestation. And you will need your feet firmly planted upon the fundament that they represent, so that when you reach out with green ray love, with the clear, communicative spark of blue ray, and the worshipful indigo resonance of co-creatorship, it will not be in contradistinction to the, we correct this instrument, it will not be in contradistinction to the mundane illusion in which your other selves find themselves. You will be able to reach them where they're at and then bring them up ever so gently, ever so respectfully, but in a way that speaks to their heart so that they can learn to trust. You may not realize how others have provided this opportunity to you. And this is the great chain of being that we were speaking of earlier. You reach out and offer an example of what it might mean to be vulnerable. And you do that by working on your issues ahead of time. You cannot expect to balance immediately in the heat of the moment. It occurs at times, and these are glorious breakthroughs that all treasure. But my brothers and sisters, failure is your friend. And you will kiss its brow more often than you might desire. Learn to accept the lesson it provides you at great inconvenience to itself. For it teaches more, much more, than the simple joy of communion. And verily, we say, it frames the sublimity of that eventual joyousness. For you must know the dark and the light, my brother and sisters. You must see both and make a choice of how to reckon with this multifaceted situation in which you find your focus of the Creator at work. Now, we have had other members of the Confederation speak to a manner in which you might begin to more directly entertain the vibrations of these rays. And it is in a recognition of one's scale of energy system and the ability to intone each note individually so that you may learn eventually how to play a melody with this scale. Now, melody is an interesting corollary to the normal spiritual metaphor of harmony. In a melody, you have a sequence of distinct tones that build tension and release tension. They veer out of the simple harmony of a single key or chord, and then lead you back to that harmony. And in this, you have some kind of understanding of what the evolutionary project means to the Creator. We would suggest that you start to use this tired metaphor by playing chopsticks. By that, we mean start with a simple melody that connects your red, orange, and yellow ray centers to green. Start there. The higher centers are beautiful and unimaginably resonant experiences. And the saints and gurus will sing their praises for eons to come. But without the lower centers open and balanced, they are but visions of an unattainable enlightenment, a kind of teasing and taunting of the seeker who sees the glory, feels the glory, but cannot find it within. We are making this as plain as we can, my brothers and sisters. If you do your homework on the lower centers, you are doing your best preparation for the higher work to not simply obtain more easily, but for that magnificent possibility that the illusion offers the seeker, which is to have the higher centers at work in the illusion, in the intercourse between two souls. And there you will have those satisfying resolutions of the dispute. There you will have the trust as a small kernel, a small seed. And it will sprout because it can find its roots reaching down to the lower centers. And it can grow into the upper centers. Opening the heart is opening the gate that connects these two. It is the center of your being in its true form as the Creator, the one infinite Creator. You have one center, and in this manner, you reflect the Creator's nature as itself a center. And therefore, infinity and unity have a kind of mutual connection that can always help you orient in this confusing, dimly lit, third density illusion. We correct this instrument. When your lower centers are not such a barrier for you to express what you feel, what you think, what you know yourself to be, then, my friends, you will find that it will be that much easier to make that space for the other who does not have this experience immediately. For you will be able to model the vulnerability that you seek in the other. It is not a letting down of the entire guard. It is the ability to let a little down. And that starts the true negotiation, the laying down of the armor. And it can happen piece by piece. It need not be a complete surrender all at once. And in fact, you demonstrate more trust when you help your other self slowly, tenderly unravel these knots of energy that represent their distortions. For this is work they must do. But it is also the case that the knots have been tied for very good reasons, not for bad reasons. And you respect them when you respect their distortions and give them space to choose to untie the knot, to choose. And you must respect when they choose not to. And it may seem that the project of finding trust has failed in that moment. This is why you must untie your own knots first, so that you are not dependent upon every negotiation being successful for you to be able to radiate. You allow the other to withdraw and to keep their guard up because you have lowered the stakes. And it is in the lowering of the stakes of the relationship between two mind, body, spirit complexes that new possibilities can override the desire for protection and defense. It is an art that is carefully and sometimes painfully learned. But have faith in yourselves. Have faith in your Creator. And truly, my brothers and sisters, have faith in the other. For you, however far along on your path you are, did not get there quickly. That is the we correct this instrument. That is one of the great facets of this illusion, that we all started from the same point. It is not the case in any third density illusion, but especially this one, where so many have come for, shall we say, remedial purposes. There are many grades in your classroom, and not every student can talk about your lesson at the same level. So be kind to yourself, and you will be much more kind to them and be able to provide a way for them to see truth on a level they can understand at their grade level. And then you can walk away from the encounter knowing that you have done your best. And this is where we would leave it with you, that you must become comfortable. We correct this instrument, not comfortable. You must become accepting of your best. Because when you can make space for your imperfection to nevertheless shine as brightly as it can, others can take the hint, and they can see a reflection of themselves in which imperfection can still be love, in which shades of gray can still express the bright light that they know is out there. And you can offer the Creator a path of entry into this world. This is the task of the individual. It begins with the self and it extends outwards. And then, as this work proceeds, you start to see certain selves that you resonate with. And when you have opened your lower energy centers to some minimal extent, you may find that together, the great unconditional love of our Creator may be found in a new center that you share with them. This is the model, my friends, for social memory. The ability to not simply radiate, but to ping off of each other's radiations such that a great power is generated. The lack of condition on love releases much potential in intelligent infinity into manifestation. And this will be the basis for the planetary project to come, to heal this world, to unify it, and to reach out to the rest of the creation as one people, and to reflect to those other planets the possibility of peace and love in a way that is not poetic simply, but is grounded in the light and the dark, and therefore concrete, tangible, and all the more beautiful. We are those of Laitos, and we are grateful for your attention. We know this monologue has covered old ground, so to speak. However, we felt that it was important to point out how elementary a situation your question addresses. It is not that you are doing remedial work here. You must understand this third density illusion is all about drilling on these lessons so that they become automatic, natural responses. And you may think deeper thoughts of love instead of simply getting yourself balanced in each moment. The balance may become like muscle memory. And then you need not your hands to steady your balance. You can reach out and do work with your hands. And to this work, we commend you. You work together. You work independently. But you serve. And it is service that will allow for the truth in your heart to come forth in that way that can be recognized and appreciated. We are those of Laitos at this time. If there are any questions that you might have about this topic, we would gladly entertain them.
I have a question. This is going back a ways and is a bit subtle. In my world and in the density I'm in, is negotiation rather than being founded on an assumption where both parties agree that a resolution is possible. Would a more genuine view perhaps be that both parties would agree that a resolution might be possible, a bit like an agreement to open a box, and the parties don't know whether something is inside or not until they open it?
I am Laitos. Thank you for your question, my brother. Yes, your latter voicing is closer to what we meant, but let us extend it. What we meant to say earlier is that negotiation is premised on the idea of two equals in some important way being able to bargain. If this did not, correct this instrument, if this were not the case, there could be no negotiation. It would instead be a withdrawal or a power dynamic at play. So first, let us say that the ability to express truth in this way, for that is what your question revolved around. The ability to express your truth in spite of the fact that it may not please the other. Similarly, the contents of the box may not be satisfying to one or both parties. This is often the case. When truth is expressed by one party and then reflected in the other, they may find that the object of their mutual gaze is not to either's liking. This too is truth. And therefore, you must have your best skills at hand in order to look at parts of the creation, parts of the true nature of things that are not pretty, that do not validate you and what you seek. What we would like to point out is that even when the contents of the box are undesirable, the mutuality of its opening is still a creative act. And you have done something that cannot be but positive, because the connection between two has occurred. There has been some, however halting, mutual recognition that has occurred. And therefore, even the darker sides of the creation are less of a disturbance, because you have each other and you can build upon that. Have we addressed the root of your question, or have we missed something? We are those of Laitos.
I appreciate what you have said. Thank you.
We appreciate you, my brother. This is a very important point that you have brought up, and we are grateful to have had the opportunity to address it in the small way that we can. Are there any other questions?
May I ask a question? So recently, a few months ago, I had a very great opportunity for a service to others act, but due to my own health, that had to be canceled, and I ended up doing more harm, I believe. But my question is, how can we safely uncover the characteristics of the repressed self, and that we may safely negotiate with it?
I am Laitos. I am understanding your question in some way, and if it is not the way that you seek, please re-query, my brother. When we arrive at the subject of repression, we are in a special case of those energy blockages that we described as knots. Repression is more than just a refusal to radiate on a certain frequency. It is the active, complementary waveform of that frequency that negates it. And therefore, it is not simply the lack of radiance, but an act of counter-radiance, so to speak. This has only one palliative available, my brother. You must learn to accept what you are actively engaged in not accepting. And you have given yourself quite a gift here, for you have made what needs to be accepted very clear in front of you. You've given it a kind of tractability that often does not obtain within the psyche. We would suggest taking the tough feelings around this into the silence. The act of repression is such a kind of violence to the self that it often is occasioned by what this instrument would call narratives, little stories you have told yourself over and over. In the same way that we described learning the lessons of love to make the response in situations automatically loving, repression has automatically foreclosed on the opportunity of love. And therefore, there is a special kind of forgiveness necessary. It is primarily, my brother, a forgiveness of self. You must understand that the character of your Creator has percolated into the illusion in a very particular way. And one of the particularities of this illusion, the very experience and flavor of it, my brother, is that not every moment is an equal opportunity for learning. Much of the skill that we have spoken of is reflected in the message of our brothers and sisters of Monka, who talked about the judicious and careful exploitation of the opportunities that the illusion presents the self. What we are trying to say is that you must forgive the self for not taking advantage of every opening that you have seen. For it is true that it will cause pain to have not taken this advantage of this opportunity, to have renounced an opportunity for love. Yet this experience is very instructive. It creates a longing. It creates a kind of motive force that causes you to seek, to reach out and ponder, are there other ways in which I can be this self that are more loving? Without this suffering, you would not get off your ass, so to speak, and go out there and look. It is hard to be in the forest searching about for the exit. And we are greatly in sympathy with you, my brother. Please know that what we are chiefly providing as a service to you is a different point of view. Because when you are on the ground in the forest, all you can see is the darkness and the trees extending beyond one's view. And we give you a small glimpse of the aerial view in which the boundaries of the forest are quite clear. And the need for despair is very much removed. Faith is the antidote to despair. But it works very much in a didactic relationship with it. It is important to despair so that faith may have true intensity. It focuses you on those things you don't want to look at. And it is there that all of your potential lies. For if you accepted yourself fully, my brother, you would not need this third density illusion. And you would be seeing things from above just like we do. The key is to reconnect within and find that small glimpse of the aerial view, not because the illusion presents it, but because you as the creator have created it. And it is from that point that you live a mundane flesh and blood life. This is the golden path. And it is walked with some hardship. It is true. Please know, my brother, you are not alone. You are not alone. Many are with you. And there are more views than the aerial. And if you could open to them, you would see that you are absolutely cradled by so many who have nothing but respect and honor and love for you. And you would know that the forest is finite and that home is not so far away. Does this address your concern in some way, my brother?
Yeah, that was very touching. I'll definitely read the transcript again later. But may I ask one more short question, or would someone else in the group like to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. This other question, hopefully. Sorry. Let me start over. So, how can we encourage the cessation of avoidance that seems to be growing in our culture of protection without imposing on their free will and so on?
We are those of Laitos, and we are recognizing that the ideal answer to your query does not come solely from us, but from our brothers and sisters of Hatan. It is very simple, though. Plant a seed through your own example. In this, you are accepting the nature of the illusion, that it will not reflect the fruition immediately. You must go first, my brother, if you are to set this example. Think of the Master Jesus. What he did, many did not understand. He demonstrated a love that to them at that time seemed alien, confusing, insane. And it did not take root, this seed, immediately. Because he was a master. And he was bringing the fourth density directly up in the faces of those whom he sought to help. He was working outside of the succession of events that your perception of time makes plain. He was reaching through the timeline. In each man and woman he touched, he saw them as they truly were, not as they presented in the moment. When you see a reflection of yourself that is more beautiful than you expected, you are astounded and you are almost a little off-put, because regularity and predictability are the watchwords of your density. The goal of the yellow ray is to create stability, that things will be predictable and consistent. And you see in the way that your world works that your social institutions achieve this. And therefore, the chaotic events are so unnerving to your entire society. But Jesus spoke of bringing a sword, did he not? This is because it will always challenge an individual when they are offered the opportunity to be more than who they are. It will be scary for them, which is why free will is so important. It is why they must make the step forward. And when they make that step, they do it for themselves, not for you, and not even for the Creator, but for the Creator within themselves. But they must have the concept on some level that it is possible. This possibility is what you may offer in a very, very small way. In order for it to be truly offered and not imposed, as you rightly wish to avoid, it must be possible for them to reject your gift. For you to speak truth and for it to be laughed out of the room or met with derision, hate, or just indifference, ignoring. This, my brother, is why it is important for you to have your feet on solid ground, so that when opportunities present are acted upon by you and do not achieve fruition, you do not lose faith as a result. The Master said to scatter your love like seeds on the soil. Some will sprout, some will not. That's a very important insight, because you are not in charge of the growth. You are in charge of planting a seed. And the relief of this responsibility is that you must not take it upon yourself, whether it takes root or not. It is a great unburdening that many in your density would do well to reckon with, to take the weight off the shoulders for the full evolution of this planet, and instead simply offer an opportunity for the ingress of the Creator's love and light. and let the chips fall where they may. Let the seeds take root where they may. It is this freedom that expresses the love of the Creator most poignantly. And it begins, my brother, with faith. May we elaborate on this answer in any way, my brother. We are those of Laitos.
That's enough. Thank you very much. I leave it to the next question here.
We thank you, my brother. Would there be perhaps a final question on this matter or any matter in your hearts at this time? We are Laitos.
Laitos, you reminded me in something in your message about indifference. We have a saying that the enemy of love is indifference. Is there a way we can overcome that with the message you've sent us today?
I am Laitos and am aware of your question, my brother. We think through this instrument that the concept of our brothers and sisters of Ra is most fitting here. And we would ask that you follow up on this answer through consulting those transcripts and written sources that will explicate this. For we feel the energy diminishing in this instrument. You are correct in that indifference is the enemy of the evolutionary momentum. One of the central issues with this planet in particular is something that those of the complex of Ra named the sinkhole of indifference. You see, the polarization that we explained in some detail earlier is a moving off of the center of comfort. The tossing of the self into the maelstrom of service and away from the quaint third density house with a picket fence and 3 square meals a day. It is important to understand that the spiritual path is about reaching beyond merely being comfortable. And the sinkhole of different, we correct this instrument. The sinkhole of indifference is founded on the despair that the forward progress represented by either pole, service to self or service to others, is unfruitful. And one best simply take care of oneself and try to get along as best one can. Not caring so much for what happens to others as long as one is fed, clothed, and housed oneself. It is greatly disturbing to walk the path of giving of the self freely, or just as much, if not more, the path of mastering the illusion such that one must tightly and rigidly control others as a reflection of the tight, rigid control one enacts within oneself on the negative path. It is easier to simply stay home. And many in your illusion have learned to do this. No matter how much the planet expressly signals that this placid idyll is coming to a quick conclusion. You all see the signs. We would suggest that when you see a kind of indifference within yourself, that you have a great deal of compassion for the second density animal that will always be attracted to that. And by the second density animal, we are referring to your body and in some ways, the lower aspects of your mind. You are asking much of this beast. And it is not always going to understand the higher truths that you are aspiring to. And if you can learn to be patient and careful with yourself in this way, perhaps you see the possibility in that very act of extending this to others. This extension, my brother, will do much to make indifference a non-starter for you personally. Does this address your interest, my brother? We are those of Laitos.
Yes, Laitos, thank you.
We thank you, my brother. We are those of Laitos, and we are very happy to have introduced ourselves to this group. We are an old friend of this instrument who has walked with him since those very halting first moments in which communication from our density to yours has occurred through him. And we know that in coming to your circle this afternoon, we have completed a circle of his development as an instrument. And we are simply expressing our gratitude and respect for him in saying this. It is a gratitude and respect we hope to share with all of you one day if you are interested and willing in the active instrumentality, in the purposeful opening of the self to the greater intelligences that abound in this world, and the tuning of the self such that even in this act of surrender, one is expressing one's deepest truth and ensuring that it is of the polarity one wishes. What this instrument does, what any instrument does, is not very special. It is simply a matter of practice and time. And it is not more important in any way than learning how to open in those more immediate ways that you can imagine in your daily lives. this is what each opportunity to communicate with and open up in truth to another provides you and this planet. The continual chance of realization that what seems stuck and gummed up in your lives, in your society, in your hearts, is but a moment in an unfolding tale of glory. And it is not your glory. When the realization dawns, you will understand how you cannot help but serve the Creator. So, enjoy your paths, my brothers and sisters. Cherish this illusion for all of the challenges it presents. They are challenges that cannot occur in any other sector of the Creator's awareness. And this makes you very special to our Creator. For the lessons you learn here redound unto your future reunification and all of the lessons in between. We are those of Laitos. At this time, we would ask to take our leave, leaving your circle in the love and the light of our one infinite Creator. Adonai Vazu Baragas.